We're live? Okay, episode 37. Ferris, how do you say your last name?
Garcia.
Perfect. I would have nailed that, but I didn't want to, mess that up. Garcia. Okay, and you are originally from, we were just talking about, but
Wales,
Wales.
United Kingdom.
When did you move here?
Moved here back in 2012 for college at University of Illinois.
Cool. Before we get into all that, for those of you guys who don't know Ferris, so we met maybe 3 or 4 years ago?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, which was right around the time you got into real estate. And then at that point, you now officially are one of the 3 largest privately owned real estate owners of multifamily under the age of 40 in the United States of America.
Yeah, correct.
How fucking cool is that? That is awesome. How does that feel, by the way?
I don't know.
It probably means nothing to you.
Yeah,
but
you
how
don't
does it
think
feel?
about it day to day. You just kind of go about your business and get on with it. But yeah, I mean, looking back at what you accomplished and hopefully continue to, it's cool,
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
When you posted that, I was like, that is unreal. But I'm also not surprised. Do you know the other 2 guys and girls? Or who
Yeah, one of them's my close buddy, and then another one I don't know very well. But yeah,
Nice.
another one, Logan Rankin. If anyone wants to take a look at him, he's got coming up over 5,000 units now.
Wow. Okay. So, and for context, so as one of the 3 largest privately owned multifamily owners of real estate in the country, what is it under the age of 40? What does that look like? How many properties, how many properties do you own at this point? Rentals? What?
Properties exactly don't know because I got some duplex and house I don't count in there. But
Sure.
unit-wise,
Units,
personally owned, it's 972. And then company-wise, there's 1,291 in the
Awesome.
company. Few partners own 10, 20% of a building. So
Awesome. Very cool, man. And you also own a real estate brokerage.
correct.
Talk about that a little bit, your brokerage.
Yeah, so myself and Tarek opened up a brokerage earlier this year, mainly focused on commercial and also high dollar luxury residential. We have some great agents in that space too. We had a team for a few years at a residential brokerage, got a little too big for that brokerage and decided to move out on our own. It's been a great decision. So that's been fantastic. I think we're coming up on a little over 40 agents now. All have great experience, 3 states, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, hopefully Wisconsin coming up soon too. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun ride.
One thing that blows my mind about you, and this we'll get more into this, but it's like, and I've told you this many times, but it's just like, yeah, we do this and this and yeah, it's been cool, and it's like very just like no, there's a lot more to it than just like yeah, it's cool, it's been great, and you're just like, how do you accomplish all of this shit in such a relatively quick period of time? And I've kind of told you before, like your ability of decision making. Like I think that's one thing where number one, it's kind of your belief in yourself, right? Which I think I've been blessed to be around some people. Like best example I give is my buddy Zach Plezak, who Kyle and I have known forever. Zach's a professional baseball player, and Zach was always the guy that just like he never had a doubt, right? Like anything that he ever did, it was always like yeah, he believed in himself. But there was times where like my mindset was always like there would be things that got in the way. And I would have this, little bit of belief, disbelief, I should say. But ever since I've met you, you've always been like, no matter what it is, like I'm gonna do it. There's no sense of, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do that or anything that's getting in the way. Like, can you talk a little bit first on like your mindset going into your career in business at such a young age? Like talk about that.
Yeah, I think, looking back, there was a lot of doubt when I started, and there still is today when you hopefully acquire maybe a larger deal than something you've done before or something with different problems than you dealt with. But I think just from the compounding, issues that you've dealt with along the way, it just helps you have the belief that, okay, you can deal with the next thing that comes up. Because at some point, everything is new to somebody. So you either have to do it or you're just going to stay stagnant, right? So I think to me, it's fun to solve those problems and those challenges. I think people have different kind of stress tolerances and levels that they can handle. For me, I get stressed out, but I think I'm just, I've got used to dealing with a certain amount of it from getting into real estate in a different country that I really had no connections, didn't know anyone, just bought a random house and decided to try and go for it. Like that was probably the most stressful point, right? I mean, there's been other points too, but I think it just keeps compounding belief that you can do it and solve it. And that's really the main thing of anyone getting into something, It's have the belief that you're going to figure it out, whatever that looks like. And, there's one thing that I always, when someone says, oh man, I'm too busy to do this or do something new, or I got a lot going on, I'm like, well, what are you doing at 2:30 a.m.?
Right.
Well, what's like, you're probably sleeping, so you actually have a plenty of time. You know, like that's the one thing when you wake up and you have like a busy day going on.
Yeah.
You can just like lose all that stress by being like, well, I was planning on going to bed at 11, 12, so if I just go to sleep at 4 or 5,
I get it done.
everything get done. There's no issue. But you know, you end up going to bed at normal time and it
Yeah.
gets done anyway. But I think people try and think they're busier than they are when they really have plenty of time. If they were just going to say, okay, I'll take my weekends and do this, I'll take extra time today and do this, I'll take as much time as it needs to get it done, like I'll do it.
The one thing there that I think for a lot of people, like the average person will hear, okay, this is how it works. This is okay. Conceptually, it makes sense. When it's time to make a decision, fear overrides their ability to do something. And then versus you, it's like, okay, you said you have doubts, but it's not that it stops you from doing it. Your doubt is, well, I don't know how to do it, so let's figure it out. Versus some people, it's like the fear of the failure is what stops them from doing it at all. Right?
So a couple things I think go with that. I think when there's fear, there's also maybe a lack of knowledge, right? And I think having that full understanding, that grasp of what's going on is truly what helps someone like get into something, right? So the fear of like, oh, if I buy this rental and someone slips, oh no, like am I going to get sued for a major amount of money? And should I put an LLC and stuff? And there's no true knowledge of like, well, you have insurance either in your name or an LLC. If something happens, like it's not going to hit you.
Yeah.
And if it does, it's a small claim. You know, to get to those egregious amounts of numbers, like you have to be extremely negligible for years, you know, on like major things, or even go set it on fire yourself. So there's really, you know, but it's just the lack of knowledge that people get fearful of doing something. Like, for example, if I wanted to go buy some different business that I have no idea of what, you know, is going on, like some marine business. I don't know. I know nothing about fish or the sea or anything. So yeah, I'd probably be pretty fearful of buying like a boating company.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you truly have a passion for it, then you should learn it, understand it, and that should curb the fear, and you should actually be excited about getting into it with the knowledge and understanding you have. So I think the fear comes from, you know, no confidence in themselves in terms of just getting it done and being able to put other things aside to do it, but also not having the right knowledge going into it.
Yeah. I want to get a little bit more into that stuff later. Let's start with kind of like your background. So you're from Wales. What was your childhood like? Let's start with that. Like, what were you like as a kid? What did you like to do? What were your interests?
Pretty basic, you know, childhood, like every other kid. Played video games when I could. Lots of tennis. Obviously came here for college tennis and then went on to play pro for a little bit. But my, you know, entire childhood from the age of like 7 to 17 was filled with tennis training and just after school tennis, missing, you know, some school for tennis, travel, all that stuff. So lots of tennis. Education was big in my family. Like they really wanted me to do well in school. And then just playing some video games when you could.
So tennis is like, that world is crazy. I feel like from the younger perspective, like when you really get intense in tennis, how did you get into it? Was it you took an interest, or were your parents like, did you grow up around it? How'd you get into tennis?
No, funny thing, my parents just watched it on TV.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I was just getting a little chubby. And they were like, you got to pick something. And I was like, well, that one looks easy. So they put a tennis racket in my hand and off I went, lose some weight. And the coach was like, you know, he could be pretty good if he wanted to. And my competitive side took over. And I just wanted to get as good as I could.
So did you have some natural like athletic ability when you picked up, like naturally pretty good?
Yeah, I think I was pretty, you know, what they would call talented, right?
Yeah.
Had some ability for the game. So that helped. Obviously, you know, dedication, waivers as a kid, you like training a lot, but you trying your best some days. It's tough, right? You know, emotions are high. Knowing what I know now, obviously it'd be way easier to do it. But yeah, I think I had some talent for the game, and I, you know, got out there and practiced pretty much every day, 7 days a week.
And were you one of those kids that was like all the time, like I'm training something else, or like you'd finish practice and you'd go train on something else or go do something else? Was it like an obsession for you, or was it like, I'm good at this, I do it when I can? Like, because I was a kind of like a more obsessive personality type.
Yeah.
So I don't know, do you have a natural kind of like obsessive personality, or was like, what were you like at that age?
Yeah, definitely obsessive. When I get obsessed about doing something, I can get that way. I don't think I was obsessive and focused as I could have been.
Sure.
I think it was obsession, but also, you know, are you putting in 100% some of the days you don't feel good?
Right.
Type deal. Well, now I can, you know, but back then, at the age of 12, it's tough to, you know, sometimes do that.
For sure.
You get a D on a homework and just the whole day's ruined, right? So just a little different. But yeah, I would say I have that personality type for sure.
Okay. And then so you get to you finish high school and you go to, is it called high school in Wales? What's it called? What's it called?
Man,
A different name?
I don't.
Secondary school.
No,
No?
I think it's called high school. I don't
Is that
know.
what? So then you came to
Yeah.
university or college here?
Yeah,
You went
university,
to
college, yeah.
where'd you go to school?
Illinois.
Okay, and played tennis there.
Yes.
And so after that happened, this is when you were ranked what in the world at that point? When
Like during my senior year of college, I just played a few pro tournaments in the fall, so I took that off and I got to like 550
Okay.
in the world during college, and then after college, I took a year to play professional. That was the goal, always to play professional, and I was just getting inside the top 400, and just wasn't something I loved anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Just wore down on you, or what was it that made you? Like,
You know, college is great because you're around your team. You know, people who like watch the sports kind of know you. It's quite cool at that age, right?
Yeah.
And then you go from that to just being in a different country. No one knows you. No one cares. You're picking up a check for a couple $100.
Yeah. And
Just tough.
you told me before it's like only the top 60?
I would say 60. Yeah, really can actually make and save money.
Like live off of
Yeah,
what they
off
do
the sport,
professionally.
yeah.
Which is crazy. It's only 60 people in the world that can
Yeah.
do it professionally and to make enough money.
Yeah, no, it's
That's
a
wild.
tough sport to make money in.
It's crazy. And so at that point, then you're like, all right, I need to do something else.
Pretty much, yeah. I was like, at this point, I feel like I should get started with, my career or life or whatever I'm going to do, which landed me into full-time private coaching in Dyer, Indiana, actually. So I was working with a family there full-time, really nice family.
Did that just come from your
coaching
connections
his
at
son.
University of Illinois?
Yeah, the
Okay.
dad went there, played football.
Got it,
So
okay.
came from that, wanted his son to play. So full-time coached out here for about a year and a half, right after I got done playing pro.
And then how did that transition to real estate?
Transition to real estate was someone else that I met in the community, Dean Severino, great guy. His daughter also played tennis and started training her. And he was owns a landscape business out here, pretty big landscape business, and owned real estate and was like, hey, man, I think you should look at it out here. Also, my parents own 6 houses back home. So they thought it would be a good investment decision too. I was trading stock options at the time. That was, again, risk tolerance was not there for that kind of stuff. Felt like gambling. Took a Series 7, Series 4.
Because you didn't have control over that, right?
No
kind
control.
Because I think that's a cool because for a lot of people who
Yeah.
are looking at whether it's real estate, stocks, investing,
Yeah.
like even talk about that just a little bit. Why you were like, this isn't it, and why your mindset was like, that's not going to work. I want to go to real estate. What was the thought process there?
Yeah, so options are even a little more risky, I would say, than stocks, depending on how you're doing them. I mean, if you're selling puts, you're basically just agreeing to buy the stock at a lower price. But owning stock is technically, in a way, if you're not underwriting the company financials and all that stuff and looking at the minutes of the meetings, it's a gamble. It's a risk. The people who own some Microsoft stock, like, do you really know what their books look like?
Yeah.
Like, are you really diving in? Are you listening to their calls every quarter? No. You're just buying the stock, right? So technically, you have no idea what's going on. You just, I should do that, right? Index fund, maybe a little better. You're diversifying it, but still not the greatest. So there's no control over that, and you don't have the ability to buy something with any value there day one. If the stock's trading at 100, you're buying it for 100. There's no way you can buy Microsoft stock at 80 if it's at 100. But with real estate, with the right work and effort, you can buy a house for 80,000 that's worth 100,000. It's out there all the time.
That's cool. I like how you just broke that down. Okay, so then how'd that go to the first property you bought?
I was scrolling Realtor.com one day on the couch, and I saw this house listed in Munster for 105,000. I was like, seems pretty cheap.
How old were you?
It's 24
Okay.
or 5. 24 or 25. I think 24. Dean put me in touch with a realtor he knew well, and I looked at it and wrote an offer on it.
No, but this story is funny though. So you're like, you got to tell the story on
Yeah.
that house. So you go look, it's a half duplex, right?
Half duplex.
Okay, so what? So you're like,
215 Adelaide Place.
so you're under contract to buy it.
So
You
I'm
write
under
an offer.
contract. Yeah, I'm under contract to buy it. It's like 6 years ago. I do an inspection, and the minorest things come back, like door lock broken, garage door not operable, tree limb hanging over roof.
Tiny stuff.
Tiny stuff, dude. Gutter like hanging off. And I was like, I don't want this anymore. I was like, get me out of this thing.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, we'll ask them to fix everything. They're probably not going to do that. I was like, great, ask them to fix everything. So she did, and they were like, yeah, we'll fix everything. I was like, damn it. Then
He's like, I'm trying to get out of this
then
deal.
I was like, well, also my money is tied up in a CD, right? Well, I was going to get a loan on it, right? So $20,000 down, 20% down. I look at the loan disclosure and I'm like, $4,000 to get a loan. You know, you got all the fees and stuff.
Yep.
I was like, this is crazy. I'm not paying $4,000 to get this loan. I'm like, you know, doing my little math on my notebook. I'm like, that's 13 months of cash flow. It doesn't make any sense. so you know, I'm looking at that and I'm like, I'm just gonna buy it cash then. So then I told the realtor, I'm like, that I'm gonna buy it cash, but my cash is in a CD. I can't get my money out for another 3 months. So we're gonna have to push this closing back for 3 months.
Which is, if you know real estate, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They could have sold the house 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like July, and they agreed to like an October 12th closing. Yeah, like literally.
So they agree to fix everything, which you're like,
and
damn it.
3 months.
And wait. Okay.
Yeah, and wait 3 months. So then I bought it, and you know, I'm figuring out like, how do I list this thing on Zillow? Like, what should I list it for? And then I got to like go show some people the place, and obviously doing those showings. I'm living in Oswego at this point. I'd moved out about an hour and 20 minutes away, so I'm driving here all the time to do showings. And I showed one person, you know, the family was nice, maybe questionable, and I was just too scared to run a background check or like ask for anything because I just wanted to rent it so bad. So I was like, yeah, you guys seem great. You can have
no background check.
No background check.
No income verification.
Nothing.
No employment verification.
No. So, you know, they drove out to Oswego where I worked, and I stopped the tennis lesson real quick, went outside and grabbed the check for $1,200. And I remember just looking at it for like a minute. I was like, wow, they just handed me this check, and what did I do? Obviously, there's more to it than that, right?
Yeah.
But it is like, you know, obviously easier or more time freedom than being tied to a job or whatever you do day to day. So that was really encouraging for me. And then at the same time, I was still under contract on a duplex on the same street, which I still own today, actually. So I was buying 3 units early on that street, and that was kind of my entryway into real estate. And just so many things happened that, you know, the first time I had a problem, I think the washing machine had broke, and I remember I was crying. I was like, this is $600.
Yep.
This is 2 months of cash flow. I'm like, I'm never going to recover. So I'm just there, head in my hands. I'm crying. I'm looking at Best Buy. I'm like $549. I'm trying to find a deal, and I call the tenant. I'm like, listen, man. I'm like, can you survive without a washer? He's like, no, we can't. I'm like, damn it. So I'm like, see if it works. And like the next week, the thing's totally broke. You know, I don't want to call anyone to fix it. So I called Best Buy, you know, and I'm like freaking out about this like basic appliance delivery. You know, I'm like, can they get it down? Are they going to break something? Like, what's going to happen? So anyway, that works out. The washer gets installed. Just random stuff, dude. And then I get a call at like 3 a.m. And he's like, my tires got stolen on my car. They left bricks here for my tires. And I'm like freaking out. I call my mother. She's like half asleep in England. You know, it was like really early there. And she's like, dude, what are you doing? She's like, that's their problem.
That's not your problem.
Totally, yeah. What
right.
are you freaking out? Anyway, I ended up like, don't want to get into their personal stuff, but some stuff was going on between them and other people. So it wasn't even anything to do with me or like the area itself. But yeah, I mean, just the first few problems I had, I remember like head in my hands, kind of like life's over. The eighth house I bought, there was like a raccoon that got in the attic. Couldn't sleep all night, dude. I was like, $600 I got quoted for this raccoon. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, another 2 months of cash flow. I was like, this business doesn't work. People are lying to me. I got to buy more. I was like, the funniest thing was every time I had a problem, I was like, this is ridiculous. I just got to buy more.
I got to buy.
That was my solution, dude.
It's so funny because you literally do the opposite of what the average person would do. They'd be like, I have this issue. I'm never doing this again. You're like, I have this problem. I need more of it.
I was like, I just need more. I was like, I guess I need more. I was like, it seems like it works for some people.
Wow.
So I must just be like not buying enough.
Dude.
So I just kept buying.
So yeah, talk about from that first one, then to the duplex, to the next ones. How did that kind of snowball work to get to where you're at now?
Yeah. So first about 2.5 years, I'd say, of purchasing properties was all sub 4 units. Okay. So single family, duplex. Then it was a 4 unit. And my first 4 unit, I was like really scared. I was like, wow, 4 units. This is crazy. Then I went back, you know, from a 4 unit, another duplex, some single family homes. I basically got to about 36 units, all 1 to 4 units in size.
Mm-hmm. And then how did it go? What was the next purchase after that? That was kind of the bigger one. What was the first big one you bought?
It was, you know, I don't know if you can call this big, but it was 14 units in Cherville.
Sure.
That I bought with a partner that I met through cold calling.
Nice.
We're still friends today. He still buys into some of the deals. We split that one 50-50. So that was the first one probably back in 2020, I would say, mid 2020 that we closed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then from 2020 to 2021, like how did your unit count go year by year?
Yeah.
Just for context.
Yeah. So for context, I cashed out, refinanced some of the good deals that I bought. There were 1 to 36 units, and these were all mostly off market. So I'm cold calling direct to owner. The first one I ever bought off market, I way overpaid for because I was just so excited that someone like wanted to sell me something like off market. It was like a Zillow listing for rent that I texted at 10 p.m. and they lived in Florida, so it was midnight. And it was like a half duplex in Munster, but like the ranch level ones.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they
Yep.
were selling for like 85,
Yep.
90, and I offered her like 107,000. I was like 10,000 in this money, and she was like, okay. I was like, I don't need to see it. She was like, okay.
Okay.
What are you doing? The appraisal came in low, and
Yeah.
anyone would
didn't
always
even care.
be like, I'd just take it for the appraisal price. I was like, I'll split the difference with you. And she was like, okay. Like, what are you doing? Just take it for the appraisal. It's okay. Like, came in like $5,000 low.
Dude.
So yeah, that was my first one, but all of them were off market. And then same with the larger stuff. And I cashed out those, and I went a 14 unit, 28 unit, 32, 33 that year. So that got me to about 180-ish.
Yeah.
And then from there, the following year, which was 2022, so that was 2021. 22, I went 122, 19, 14, some small stuff, and then like a 144.
That's awesome.
So then that helped. And then obviously last year and this year has been good too.
That's awesome. And almost 1,000 now at this point.
Personally owned, yeah.
Personally owned.
Company-wide, we managed 1,300.
Yeah.
Which obviously, again, I have a couple deals where I split 50-50 with some people, and now at this point, it's either all myself or I'll let someone buy like 10% of a deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so so whenever you talk about that, when you're like, yeah, the first couple, and the next thing you know, we're at 970, whatever, and 1,300, like, it's like there's so much in the middle of that, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like kind of talk about that, because what you said where it was, all right, now you're at this point where we talked about in the beginning, this level of success with both your brokerage and as an owner. For a lot of people, man, it's like it's literally the start that stops so many people. For the person who's like, how do I get involved in investing in real estate? Talk about that first one with getting someone, like, how do they buy their first property as an investment property?
So first off, I think let's back up there.
Yeah.
And a good thing that, helped me a lot was, not helped me a lot, but I was recently talking to a lender with First Merchants Bank. And a lot of the lenders that I speak to now are obviously thinking I'm seasoned in the business, and I have this large portfolio, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, it's great to sit down with you because, you're just getting started out in your thing. And I'm like, really, I am, right? My long-term goal, I want 50,000. That's what I had my eyes set on. And I think when people start out, like, they should start out with hopefully a really big goal, because that's going to help them move quicker, move faster to what they want to achieve. And if it's not a big goal, it's okay. Like, people should just know exactly what they want then. I think we've talked about this a lot.
Yes.
Like, exactly know what your life wants to look like at 60, 50, 40, and just work backwards from that. Because that'll really help you dial in on, like, okay, what do I need to do today to make it look like that? So for people starting out, truly, the first question is, like, is this something that you really want to do? Because if it's not, you're just not going to do it right. And you're not going to understand it or buy the right thing. And then it's just all going to be, honestly, a terrible experience if you just did it because someone said, oh, you should get into real estate investing.
100%.
So number one is really, do you want to do it? And number two is align yourself, with someone with more knowledge than you in that field to either, guide you or answer some questions or help you out. Because I think too many people, no offense to anyone here, but it's like, maybe the neighbor that doesn't own any rentals and who just got licensed 2 months ago isn't the best person to help out with, like, even ask someone who owns like 20 units or something. Get with someone, go to a meetup. There's a bunch of meetups that happen around here that people have every month. Like, learn, absorb things, like talk, listen. So I think that stuff's really important to get into it. That's the first thing I would do is understand it. Ask yourself, what do I want my life to look like at different stages in the future? And is this something I truly want to do? Because, there are people out there that make 250, 300-ish or whatever it is doing a corporate job, and they think the grass is greener. And, sometimes it's not greener. If you don't want to, like, have your own business, it can be stressful.
Yeah, for sure. And then once they're ready to make that decision, they're like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And I found some people to learn from. Someone getting involved, that starting process And you don't have to go from like, I'm not saying like how to exactly help that. I'm
Yeah.
saying just like getting involved in starting making that jump
Yeah.
to then grow their business. Like, what's your advice to them as they start and as they start to grow their portfolio of investment properties?
I think the more time they can allocate to finding the deals themselves, like off market, it's a fantastic opportunity to, you know, grab actual value and pick up that kind of stuff. You're always going to find better value when you're direct to the owner. You know, if someone who's tired wants to be done, they might just like you and want to work with you. So the more people can get into that space, that's really going to help. And also, you know, then you have optionality to maybe like do a flip or something like that along the way. So I think that's great. The more they can do that. And then also just as they grow their business, like learning other aspects of the business as well. Like, so if you have an issue, don't just call the plumber and pay the bill. Like, understand what that problem is. Understand how these systems work so you can get more experience with that kind of stuff. So there's sorts of things to learn and be excited about, but also, you know, check in with yourself after you've bought one or two and be like, am I still enjoying this? Is it too stressful? Do I think I want to take this to the next level? Like, what do I want to do with this? Because again, if it's not the right fit, but you have passion and motivation there, get out of it. Like, sell them. It's okay. It's not a failure to be like, I tried this. Like, let's move on.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of the most successful people in the world, it's like, how many times can I fail today? Like, how many times can I do something and fail? And I was listening to a great, it was a podcast or something about like, Elon has done so well with SpaceX because the guys just sent up so many rockets. I mean, the first few are exploding. Like, other companies don't want to have that kind of publicity. He's like, send it. Let's go. Just 100%. Do it. Send it out. So try something, fail, you don't like it. Great. Go do something else. Maybe there's another business for you.
And that relates really well to the other thing I said in the beginning, but I've told you this many times. One that, like, for me, right, I'm somebody who struggles from the aspect of like, okay, there's fear involved and I take a long time to make a decision, which one of the things that I admire and I'm learning from you as like a real life, not just as friends, but also as like someone I can learn from in the way as a mentor is like, your decision-making process is so simple. And I asked you the other day, and it's funny because the conference I was at, my business coach recently was like, here's how Jeff Bezos makes decisions. And so the other day we were talking and I was like, all right, you seem to just like, there's a choice to be made, let's do it. And you're like, you ever heard that Jeff Bezos said? And I was like, my coach just talked to me about this. Yeah. Touch base on that, because that's one thing about you, man. It's like, I'm going to make a choice, make a decision, move forward. So many people sit there and they sit in the decision and then never make a decision. And ultimately there's a lot behind the whole idea of success and the ability to make choices quickly. Talk about your decision-making process, kind of like what you had mentioned with Bezos had said, because I think it's super valuable for everyday people.
100%. So you're not going to know truly if something works or doesn't work unless you make a decision. And 99% of the decisions we make on a daily basis are not life-threatening, massive, impending decisions. I mean, there are, right? There are some where it's like, you have to get this right or it's not going to look good. But for the most part, it's like, do I change to this software for this? Okay, well, I can't watch any more YouTube videos about it. So why don't we just try? And if not, we can just switch it back.
Go right back.
You know, so it's that simple as like, just the decision will become known to you if it's the right decision when you do it. There's really no other way to know. And again, it's all about risk tolerance and what does that decision look like? And also, you know, to me, a lot of it is, how do you mitigate the downside with allowing for maximum upside risk, right? So if you're going to buy a house that you think the market value is 100-ish thousand and you're buying it for, let's say, I don't know, 90. So, okay, after fees, maybe your mitigated risk is you break even and it was a waste of time, right? That's not, okay, but what's the upside? Maybe this goes to X in the future if I do some upgrades and I can rent it for this. So, okay, mitigating my downside risk and there's upside there. I'll take that choice and go for it. So I'm always looking at, okay, how do I mitigate the risk to the downside? And if it's there, if there's way more upside than the risk on the downside, even if it's like, okay, I could lose 30, but I could make 200, you take that decision all day long. You say, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, and the way that Bezos had talked about it was, if I can implement it, if it's easy to implement and easy to take back, I do it right now. If it's hard to implement and hard to take back, I take 24 to 48 hours, that's what he says, take like a day or two, and then make a choice and move on. Which a lot of people, myself included, I'm one of those people, I'll sit there and I'll dwell on this. I'm like, fuck, I still got to figure that out. And what I love about watching successful people like you is like, there's a choice to be made, make the choice or don't. And that's it. And so, and the risk tolerance thing I think is important too. Like, I think one thing that I do want to say, and this is both for myself because I have goals of achieving similar to what you've done, but at the same time for everyday people, you also, there's nothing wrong with maybe having 5 rental properties to one day retire on 30 years from now. There's nothing wrong with that.
1,000%.
There's nothing wrong with having 10 that are paid off and it changes your life. And so I think that whether your goal is 1,000 or 50,000, like your goal is 50,000, or it's I would like to have 5 paid off rentals by the time I'm 50 or 55, or my kids go to college or whatever that is. And so I think that just making, like you said, you have to make that decision, but also the risk tolerance factor is like you don't have to keep borrowing money and keep investing and keep buying deals. Your deal could be I'm going to buy a house every 2 years, and over 10 years I'll have 5 houses, and 20 years from now I'll have them paid off, and then I can retire or whatever it might be, right?
100%. I mean, especially with real estate, right? It's one of the lowest risk businesses I think out there because, again, you buy that house for 100.
Just sell it.
And yeah, well, you can, but also, okay, eventually that loan's gonna get paid off, right? And even if you overpaid at the time, you bought it for 100 and it was worth 90, inflation, appreciation, time, all of this heals the wounds of buying a bad deal. It's on your side, right? There's gonna be always someone there to probably rent it. I mean, it's just a known fact. People need to live, and the population's growing. So truly, the risk is someone just being like the worst operator ever.
Yes.
You
Which
know,
we've seen.
Which can happen, right?
It can happen.
You know, it's tough to be a bad operator of like 5 houses.
Yeah, right.
You know, if you go try and syndicate a 200 unit,
Yeah.
it's a different story. You could be a bad operator of that because you don't know what you're doing. But just, you know, trying it out and getting into it with 1 or 2 houses and learning how it looks and if you like it, I don't see any risk there whatsoever. And I think if people want to try it, starting with 1, you know, house to try it out and see how they feel about it, not a bad decision at all. And like you said, 10 houses, a $1,500 a month, 15% are expenses, $1,350. You're looking at $13,000 a month.
Yep.
Of just income coming in when you're retired.
Yep.
And with 10 houses, you'll have minimal issues.
And over 20 years, that's going to grow. And so, right, that amount of rental amount, everything's going to appreciate.
Yeah, rent's going to go up.
I've seen people, I've worked with clients who they bought a rental years back or a couple of them, and then one day go to sell it, and all of a sudden now they pocket a few $100,000 after they've been making money on a monthly basis. And they've got a regular career, nothing crazy where they're making a ton of money, and I watch it drastically change their life. And so that's the thing too. It's like not everybody is going to be like you. You're literally one of top 3, right? So you are in a way the anomaly, the exception. For the average person who is going to listen to this, 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 deals could change their life. I've got a friend who's got 40. He's got a couple of them paid off. They cover his lifestyle. He's got his house paid off, beautiful home, but it's paid for. He's got the other 30 that he's been buying over time that are eventually going to be paid off. But he's 40-something years old. His kids are in their teens, and he's there for he sold his business. He's there for everything, and he lives a killer fucking life. And it's like that was his goal, as you said. He's like, I want to get to this point, right? And versus for you, touch on that, like your ultimate goal, the 50,000, but share a couple of the things that you want to achieve long term. What is your goal long term?
Yeah, so outside of just obviously growing the business, which to me is fun and a fun challenge to see like where you can take that. 3 things that I really, you know, well, it's I think more too, but the things I want to achieve is definitely, and we spoke a lot about this, adoptions. I think that a lot of children out there do not have the opportunity that we were given, a lot of people are given, especially in this country. Again, if I grew up in a different country, it could be a completely different situation for me. So, you know, I'm extremely lucky and grateful to have the opportunity I had to do this. So I would love to give back and, you know, give kids a home, whether that be in the U.S. or in their home country where they're at with loving parents to, you know, at least have a great life. And if that gives them the chance to achieve, that's fantastic. So that's one of my main goals is to give a ton back and put 10,000 children into loving families. And
10,000 adoptions. When you texted me that, man, I was like, that's awesome. So man, that's awesome. Anyway, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And then to own a sports team, I think would be pretty cool. That's fun for me, you know, as a failed athlete.
And
I'd love
but one of the reasons why you want to own them is awesome.
I think owning the Cubs would be great, and we spoke about this. I'd love to, you know, top of the 9th, you're up by 10 runs. We'll just get out there, man. I mean, why are we not out there? Why are we not out there?
He's going to be on the 25-man roster. And just Hey,
Yeah.
they're gonna go into like a 16th inning, extra inning game,
Yeah.
and they're gonna be out of pitchers. They're gonna be like, Ferris, we need you from the press box. I need you to pitch.
That's so
the
funny.
Batman instead of the
Bat-
bad boy.
You know, I might be 70 when I get to it, but it's okay. I'll stay nimble. I'll be out there.
We'll be ready.
I've been talking to Tarek a lot. He said it would be kind of tough for me to mess up on one of the positions. I don't know, like outfield. The ball doesn't really get to somewhere.
We'll
or
throw
other.
you in left field,
I'll
right
be,
field.
Yeah, I'll be over
you'll
there.
good in right
and
field.
then I said Stefano and Tarek can go like more
Yes.
over there. We'll keep the people on base, like the paid guys on the bases.
Yeah.
Unless we're up by like 20 runs, then maybe I'll swap out to like second base or something.
I love this.
But no, I think it'd be great to own one of those organizations. I think it brings
Be
a lot of
awesome.
joy, entertainment. I don't go to many games myself, but I think it's really cool.
Mhm.
I think sports is really cool. It brings a lot of people together.
Yeah.
So that'd be a fun thing to do. So yeah, those are my main two goals
Cool.
long term.
And then one of the last things I want to speak on is, can you touch on what kind of role did your parents play in your life for like mindset, how you were raised, like teaching you to be the person that you are now? You know, you
Yeah.
said like not a lot of kids get that, and that's where
Yeah.
kind of your motivation for the adoptions come from. Like, what were your parents like?
Yeah.
And how was it that they like how they raised you, got you to this point? What was it like growing up with them?
Yeah, I mean, my parents were the most amazing, supportive parents you could probably ask for. You know, extremely lucky to have people that could care so much about how you do, and be so selfless. You know, so that's pretty cool, man.
It's awesome, dude.
Yeah, they. I mean, you owe it all to your parents, right? So.
Yeah, man. I think when I like the thing that I do more than anything that matters to me the most, we've talked about this a lot, it is being a dad and a husband.
Yep.
And like, you know, a lot of the decisions that I make are actually every decision I make is around those two things. Like you reacting the way that you reacted talking about your parents is how I hope one day my kids will react when they talk about me.
Yeah.
You know, and talk about me and my wife. It's
Yeah.
like that we were able to have such an impact on just them. My wife has always had this saying, you know, because when I first came to my wife, I was like, I've got these goals to do this and that and this and that. And then she was in like this social work space growing up. So like
Yeah.
when she first started, that's what she went to school for. And she was a social worker for a while. She had a case management for about 18 kids that she managed in the area. And it was rough, man. Like the craziest stories that you can imagine. I mean, there was one story of a house she had to go to. She did in-home visits. There was a house of a 4-year-old girl who was being basically sexually abused by her own father. Like my wife had to go into those
It's
homes.
terrible, man.
And so my wife has a saying where it's like, you know, I always had these big goals of like, hey, making impacts and stuff. And that's what one of the things you're going to be able to do. But she's like, she always says, if you want to change the world, just go home and love your family, because the impact that you can have on your kids translates into the lives that they
100%,
touch and they
everything,
impact.
yeah.
And so the way that your parents impacted you is now translating into how you communicate with your business, your properties that you own, the money that comes in from those with adoptions. Like your parents doing their job is going to impact tens of thousands of people's lives because of how they raised you. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That's
no,
what that's
totally
my
makes
wife's
sense.
firm
Yeah, man.
belief, man.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I love seeing your reaction, man, because it's like that's the thing I care about the most. Like
Yeah.
I don't ever want my kids to be like, Dad was never there, or this or that or whatever it was. No, Dad was always there, and
Yeah.
my dad's my hero. You know,
Yeah.
my mom and my dad are my hero.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but what did you want to touch anything else on your parents wise, like how you were raised?
No, man. I mean, just, you know, always there for me whenever I needed them. You know, would give you the world. Just a great atmosphere to grow up with. You know, definitely could have been a little stricter with me, I think. You know, too many like, oh, it's okay, but you know, it's okay. I got out of it in college, but no, I mean, just would give you anything. I mean, I still, you know, to this day, I was just on the phone with my mother walking in here. I mean, we'll talk probably 15 times a day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we'll talk all the time, but yeah, I mean, it's just something you hope for everyone, right? Just great parents.
For sure, man. I don't know. Is there anything else? I mean, one other thing that comes to mind is just people who are already investing in real estate and people who want to go to that next level. What's your advice to someone who's got maybe 10, 20, 50 units who wants to go to build a larger business or something like that?
I think the main advice would be, you know, surround yourself with people who are doing the same thing. Because, you know, if you do have 50, 100 units and again, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But the group of people that you're trying to grow with have like 5, 6, 7 rentals, like that could stunt growth. It stunts
sure.
the belief of what you can achieve, right? So for me, when I started getting on CoStar and calling these larger buildings and seeing companies and owners with 2, 3, 4, 5,000 units, it really opened my mind to like, wow, that is a thing. Like people do own 5, 10, 15,000 units.
Exactly.
There is that out there because obviously when I started cold calling, I think I called someone who had like 120 units. And I called my mother right away. I was like, I can't believe it. I just called a guy with 120. I was like, do you think I could have 120 units when I'm 60? And she was like, I think you could. You could probably do that. And it's just that's where your mindset can go, right?
Awesome.
So it's just who you're surrounding yourself with. And they say the 5 people you hang out with the most, what's going to happen? The biggest believer of that possible is like your group, your circle matters more than anything.
Amen. Finish up. I do want to say, man, like how I'm super grateful for you because you're that for me. You are one of those people for me. I'm blessed to have a couple people like that I can kind of go to and be like, hey, and so thank you and I think you do that for a lot more people than that you have a close relationship with. One thing that I admire about you is a couple of things. One is your belief process. We talked about that. 2 is your ability to make decisions and just move on stuff and go. But the way that you entrust people and kind of bring them in is, I don't know how the hell you do it with how much you have going on. You're just like, oh yeah, like even just introducing you to my buddy a couple weeks ago, and you're like, hey, let's do this, let's meet up, and then all of a sudden now you're building belief for him, right? Because you're taking what you're doing and you're being that person to surround yourself with other people who are not where you are, and they're like, dude, I could do that, and so I just have to say like how thankful I am for what you even random text messages to me. Like I love, it doesn't matter the time of the day or
so
the night,
funny.
whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, what you want in on this? You want to do that?
Yeah.
And like, I love that. And you've done so much for me, man. So thank you, in so many different ways. And you deserve all the success you've got. And I'm grateful to be your friend, man. So thank you for everything.
Yeah, right
Appreciate
back
you
at
coming
man.
here, man.
I mean,
cool.
Everyone knows you're the top guy here for residential stuff, so it's pretty
yeah,
cool.
Well, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
That it doesn't mean that much, but I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say, how do people find you? Like social media, anything like that?
Yeah,
People
social
connect with you?
media. I post probably on Facebook the most here
Yep.
and there. Just my name, Ferris Garcia. So that's one
Cool.
way to find me.
Thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it,
no,
man.
thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me, Alex.
Thanks for having us.
No
Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. Episode 37 with Ferris. Thank you guys. Talk to you soon.